Hey folks, I'm happy to announce this is the last episode in the BMW weight loss series, at least for now. Anyway, there's a lot to cover, so let's dive in. In previous episodes, I stripped out the back half of the car and removed some stuff from the engine bay. In this episode, I'm going to address the front half of the cabin, as well as the doors and the stereo system. I'll start off by removing the glove box. We'll need to remove the glove box light first. It just pops loose. The glove box has a total of 6 screws. There's one in the bottom corner, one next to each hinge, and 3 across the top. Then we can pull it out, disconnect the flashlight charger, and detach the wiring. There's also a trim piece behind the glove box. The footwell light is mounted to this trim piece, so we need to detach it. Then the trim piece pulls out. Next, I'm going to remove the dash vents next to the doors. They have 2 Phillips screws on the bottom. Then you have to finagle the vent out. It can be stubborn. Both sides are basically the same. With the driver's side vent out, we can now remove the headlight switch. I'm not deleting the headlight switch, but it needs to be removed so the dash can come out. Next, I'm going to remove the head unit for the radio. This is surprisingly easy, just 2 screws in the top corners. Then you disconnect the wires. The main wiring connector has a piece that needs to be pried upward to unlock it. Next, I'm going to remove the center vent. It has 2 screws along the bottom. This guy put up a real fight. I fought with it for 10 or 15 minutes trying to remove it the nice way. Eventually, I gave up on that and got out the pry bar. That took care of it. Okay, let's get the footwell trim on the left side. It has a couple screws and a plastic rivet. Also, there were a couple metal clips in the center part on either side of the steering column. After working it loose, you'll need to detach the OBD connector and the speaker wire. Removing the door sill trim is pretty simple, just pull up. Of course it broke, just like all the other plastic in this car. Let's move on to the door panels. I'll start with one of the rear panels. First, you'll want to remove the electric window switch if there is one. Then remove the trim piece and you'll see 2 screws in there. There are also 2 screws in the bottom of the door handle. You may have to remove plastic covers to get at the screws. Then you can pry off the panel with a trim tool. I like to start at the bottom corner, then work my way around. After the panel is loose, we'll need to disconnect the door lock cable and any electrical wiring. My car is a sedan, so it has plastic trim around the window frame. There's a pinch sensor built into the frame to detect when the window is pinching something. Removing the trim will of course remove that safety feature. But I don't need it, because race car. The trim doesn't have any fasteners, you can just pull it loose. The front doors are similar, except the driver's side door will have a mirror control panel in the handle. Also, the trim on the front door frames has two plastic rivets near the door hinges. You'll need to pop those loose. Now that the door panels are out, we can remove the speakers. The tweeters just unscrew from the door panel. The woofers have 3 mounting screws. Also, there are tweeters in the front door frames. The bracket for the tweeter is slotted on the bottom, so you only need to remove the top bolt. That bolt also attaches the mirror to the door frame, so we need to reinstall it. Okay, let's get back to the dash. It's almost ready to come out. I just need to remove these 4 nuts and 1 screw. Plus the steering wheel and clock spring need to come out. I did most of that off camera simply because I forgot to set up the camera. But here are a couple photos of the dash ready to come out. It's just sitting there loose. Now that the dash is out, I can remove the front carpet. I decided to cut it instead of removing it in one piece. This interior is trashed anyway, and I think it'll be easier to deal with this way. I also removed the floor vents and that chunk of styrofoam. I had to remove the gas pedal assembly to remove the driver's side carpet. That was a hassle. I didn't film that part because I was too busy cursing at it. The driver's side also has a floor vent and a chunk of styrofoam. Now comes the really fun part, removing the centerpiece of the carpet. The bottom of the HVAC box protrudes down into the carpet, so I had to pry up on the HVAC box to get the carpet out from under it. Here you can see the hole in the carpet that the HVAC box protrudes into, and how I felt about that. Now I have access to the firewall sound deadening, so I'm going to remove it. I had to tear it out in lots of pieces. Now I'm going to remove the amplifier for the stereo system. It's in the trunk, mounted to a big bracket. I'm going to remove the bracket and the amplifier as a unit. There's also a buttload of wiring for the stereo system back here, so I'm going to remove that as well. I can pull the wiring through a pass-through into the cabin. This is also a good time to disconnect the antenna cables from the antenna amplifier. Speaking of antennas, the cell phone antenna can go bye-bye. It's mounted to the roof with double-sided tape. I was able to pry it off with a putty knife. The cable for the antenna goes around the window and down into the trunk. At this point, I'm finished removing things, and I'm going to reinstall some things into the car. For example, I'm going to reinstall the door cards, but I'm going to remove a bunch of material to reduce the weight. Basically, just the top section of the door panels will remain. That will allow the inside door handles to work, and will help to hold the moisture barriers in place. Same goes for the dash. I chopped out most of the bottom of the dash. I also removed the HVAC ductwork. There's enough of the dashboard left to mount the instrument panel plus some gauges and switches. Here's what the new and improved interior looks like. There's plenty of room under the dash to work on the wiring and stuff, but the interior doesn't look completely barren. I think I like it. So, how much weight did we remove this time? Here's the breakdown. At this point, I picked all the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. I'm sure there are a few pounds here and there that can be removed, but I'll worry about that later. I've already removed over 400 pounds from the car. That should be enough to make a noticeable difference. So now I'm going to get the car ready for another trip to the drag strip, and we'll see just how much difference it makes. So stay tuned.